will be recording this lesson for our group, okay, so they can keep an eye on that. And I'm going to present this presentation as well, connotation versus denotation. Okay, and then we will present. Okay, so you are all seeing the connotation versus denotation page, correct?
Yes.
All right, awesome. Awesome. Okay, if you have any problems, put them in the chat or turn your mic on and talk, okay? So connotation versus denotation. Briefly, the definitions. Denotation is the dictionary definition of something. It's the most technically correct understanding of the word. What that basically means is that if you go into the dictionary and you look up denotation for a word, that definition that's there is what the word actually should denote, okay? But language is complex. Language is interesting. And we have other figures of speech such that are related to connotation. These are other meanings given to a word through context or society, okay? So all of your idioms, anything that you say that's like a little phrase, like, oh, he's going up the river, or he's pushing up daisies, something like that, is using connotation to tell you that he's not actually pushing up daisies. Do you know what that means if I say he's pushing up daisies? Somebody tell me what that idiom means.
He's pulling daisies?
Yeah, have you heard that term before? If I say,
No.
oh, Tommy's Tommy's pushing up daisies. You ever heard that?
No.
No? What if I said he's 6 feet under?
That means he digs 6 feet under.
No, doesn't mean he digs 6 feet. It's actually a phrase that means, no? Anybody? If I say, Jimmy's 6 feet under?
My mom says that. She says 6 feet under is 6 feet away.
It means he's dead. Yes, thank you. Yeah, 6 feet under means that he's dead because that's generally how far you have to bury somebody. So all of the phrases that I said, pushing up daisies, he's swimming with the fishes, he's going up the river, all those phrases are ways of saying that somebody has died, okay? Because we don't like to say the words, they're dead, right? That's a very harsh way of saying something, right? You can imagine like a child, okay? You might say that, oh, you imagine it like this, right? Your little sister or something, she's like 4 or 5 years old, and you found out that your dad just passed away, and you have to go up to your 4-year-old sister and tell her that. You wouldn't just be like, yo, dad's dead. Right? That's horrible. You couldn't just say that to a little 4-year-old. You'd have to sit there and be like, listen, daddy went away for a very long time, and one day we're going to see him again, but not right now, right? And you're going to use a lot of figures of speech to break the news to her softly. You can't just be like, yeah, they're dead, so bye. Like, that's a horrible thing to do, right? So connotation helps us communicate without necessarily saying exactly what we want to say, or maybe the other way around. It lets us say what we want to say without actually saying it. Okay, I'm going to give you an example of this. Okay, imagine you text your crush about a school project. You say, hey, want to work together on the science project? Which of these responses would you prefer? Okay or K? Go ahead and write in the chat which one you would prefer. Is there a difference? Is there a difference between the top one and the bottom one?
No.
So Zulily, you're kind of right. According to denotation, OK and K, there isn't really a difference, right? But getting a K versus an OK with an exclamation point, a lot of people would think that the OK is a much better response, okay? It says something a little bit more than just K, right? One sounds like she's excited, one sounds like she's bored, right? Or he, whatever. one response. Oh, I see. Some of you wrote or as the response. Yeah, you see how that's not in quotation marks, right? You see, that means it's not, and it means it's not an answer. Okay, this is an answer. This is an answer. The or is not an answer. Sassy. Okay. Okay, so how does this apply to you? Okay. Connotation versus denotation can have a pretty strong effect on ESL students. You know, people who learned English as a second language don't necessarily see the difference between using certain words, even though they very obviously mean different things to native English speakers. Okay, I see a couple of you. This can have a pretty strong effect on translation. So we're going to look at a couple of examples here. So this one, this translation, it says racist park. And this one says, please don't touch yourself. Let us help you to try out. Thanks. Okay, so this first one, racist park. Do you think they meant to call the park racist? No, probably not, right? Probably not. Do you have any idea what they might have meant? Any guesses? Any guesses? Any guesses at all? Racist park? Yeah, I don't know. Black Lives Matter, funny. Okay, I actually do not have an answer for you. I don't know what they meant by this, but my guess is that in China they have a lot of parks. A park is just a term for any kind of like government sponsored area that you can either like relax in. It's like a garden or a like a theme park is a park. Okay, markets are sometimes called parks. So my guess is that this is probably a park on like some sort of racial history or something, possibly like something from like the Sino-Japanese War or something. That's just my guess, but I do not actually know. And that's the problem, is that this word may technically translate correctly. That word may actually mean racist, but to us, it sounds like the park is the one being racist, and that doesn't make any sense, right? And then we have this one that says, please don't touch yourself. Let us help you to try out. Thanks. All right. So this sounds pretty nasty, right? Right? He's saying, yeah, please don't touch yourself, right? That obviously has a pretty strong connotation for us, right? If it's, yeah, exactly, right? If it says, please don't touch yourself, you're like, whoa, excuse me. But what it's actually saying is, actually, do you know what it's trying to say? I'm gonna ask you. Any idea what it's actually trying to say?
Do you know?
Yes, in this case, I actually do know.
That's confusing.
Yeah, no, not because of COVID. Good guess. What it's actually trying to say is, we don't want you to touch the goods in the store. So this is this is a sign that's on some sort of like shelf, and they're saying, please don't touch the merchandise. Okay, let us help you. Okay, so they're saying, like, you yourself, please don't touch something. Okay, technically speaking, please don't touch yourself. Like, they could have said that. They could have said that right, but they mixed up the language a little bit, and as a result, it came off sounding a little bit dirty, right? Yes, it does sound weird, Jalen. That's exactly the point. It sounds weird because we have a very different connotation for that. Okay. Technically, like if I'm just touching my face, right? I'm touching my face. I'm touching myself. But if I were to say that way, it sounds really bad, right? Exactly, nasty, right? So that's connotation. I have one more here that I think is kind of funny. It says poisonous and evil rubbish. Right?
To throw away the garbage?
Yeah, right. They're basically just saying throw away any hazardous or bad material, right? Any trash, right? Any bad. All of these words basically mean bad or trash. Throw it in the garbage. But poisonous and evil rubbish sounds so much more intense than what they're trying to say.
Who said eagle? Oh,
All right. So this is just another example of how this translation is kind of problematic because the connotation of the word is very different than the denotation, right? Poisonous and rubbish are both fine for like hazardous or toxic trash. If there was a sign that said, you know, hazardous waste here, and you threw, you know, like contaminated things like tissues or something into that. You see that at every doctor's office. Whenever you go to the doctor's office, there's a little red can that says hazardous waste. That's basically what they're trying to say here is hazardous waste, but they ended up with poisonous and evil rubbish. Yeah, if you guys go to yeah, Michaela, if you guys do go to China or Japan or whatever, it's really funny when you see the translations because a lot of the translations the technical translation works, but the connotation for us is very different. Okay. Okay, so let's look at some written speech or some let's look at some normal speech. Okay, so this says, "I traveled to the restaurant with your mother," right? That's a perfectly fine sentence, right? But we could rewrite this in a way that doesn't sound as nice to say, right? So, oops, let's, can I write this? Yeah, so instead of I traveled to the restaurant with your mother, what's another way of saying I traveled? Yeah, I went. Okay, so thanks, Carmela. So I went to the restaurant with your mother. What's another way of saying your mother? It's another way of saying mother. Mom. Okay, cool. Thank you. So I went to the restaurant with your mom. And what about restaurant, right? Instead of saying like, oh, I'm going to go to a restaurant, what might you say?
Mr. Orlando, I can't hear you.
You can't hear me? Testing. Put a 1 in the chat if you guys can hear me.
I can't like hear you.
Okay, everybody else can hear me, Zulily, so reconnecting. Okay. I apologize to anybody watching the video of this because I just tapped on the keyboard and that's going to sound like explosions in your ears. So I apologize. Okay. So we replaced one of the words with, so we said, I went to the restaurant with your mom. And instead of restaurant, we might say something like dinner, right? So instead of saying I went to the restaurant with your mother, or instead of saying I traveled to the restaurant with your mom, right, or mother, we say I went to dinner with your mom. Now it sounds like the back end of a yo mama joke, right? Now it sounds like you're starting to insult the person. All right. I went to dinner with your mom sounds a lot worse than I traveled to the restaurant with your mother, even though technically speaking, both of those sentences are perfectly fine. But ending anything about somebody's mom instantly sounds like a joke. Yeah, Antonio's getting it. You put a 1 in the chat if you're kind of seeing where I'm going with this. Put a 2 if you're still a little confused about what connotation and denotation really mean. All right. Okay, it looks like I see lots of 1s. I have another example here that we're going to do. And this is something that I actually heard. This is an actual example that I heard from somebody who didn't speak English as a first language. Okay? So you ready?
Yeah.
May I fondle your bun?
What?
This is an actual thing somebody said, right? Yeah. What were they trying to say? What were they trying to say?
May I fix your bun? Wait.
Yeah, they might have been saying, I'm trying to fix your, can I fix your hair? Or really what they were asking was, can I touch your hair? Because the hair looked really soft. And so she wanted to touch it and feel like the nice, like, conditioner that she used, right? But she had learned very proper English in her schooling. And so instead of saying, hey, can I touch your hair? She said, may I fondle your bun? And that was a real thing that I heard.
Wait, do you have another one of those?
No, I think that's the last one there. But hopefully this kind of gives you an example of connotation versus denotation, right? The denotation, the dictionary definition of something that's said can cause somebody to still have a really, really different interpretation because of the connotation. The denotation is the dictionary definition, but the connotation is what you actually take away from those words because of your personal experience or because of the societal expectations of the word. All right. Hopefully that kind of gives you a little bit of experience there. I like covering connotation and denotation in this way because really this is like the best example of these kind of miscommunications. If anybody watches like NCIS, Ziva does this all the time. The character of Ziva, grew up speaking a different language, so she uses a lot of words that don't really translate well, right? And so a lot of the things she says sound kind of funny. And this is done for comedic effect, but you only really get it if you know that the difference between those two words is rooted in connotation versus denotation. All right. Oh, we got a Law and Order fan in here. That's cool. Okay, well, I'm going to stop recording real quick here because I think we are done.